Have you ever been dating someone or you're in a relationship with them? To the outside world, you look like a very together, supportive couple. And you yourself would say there's not a lot of issues between the two of you. Maybe occasional bickering, but that's about it. Over time, you realize your feelings towards them are disintegrating. There seems to be a rift between the two of you that's just growing and growing. And you don't know how to get back to them. They love you, you love them, you both appreciate one another, but you're just not connected. You feel more like friends or co-workers than lovers. What happened? There was no big fight or argument, but the relationship isn't working anymore, and you can't actually point to why. I'm Lorenz from the Gooding Wellness Group, and today we're going to be talking about microrejections. Microrejections are small, seemingly innocuous transgressions that can happen in a relationship. And at first it feels like nothing, but over time they can grow and grow and grow and get in the way of a relationship flourishing. And they can definitely get in the way of a relationship continuing. When they first start sort of building, we can overlook them. They seem like such small little things. We feel like complainers if we bring them up. But here's the thing, it's these little rejections that aren't addressed and then build up over time, causing a chasm to grow between a couple. Okay, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a microrejection? They're small, often unintentional signals that your partner picks up on, and they communicate disinterest, dismissal, or that something else is more important than the person trying to connect with you. And if it's happening, it leads your partner to feeling just a little bit rejected. And they're not obvious rejections like, I don't want to see you anymore, or I don't like spending Sundays with you. These are subtle, but they'll cause you and your partner to question yourself. Am I being too needy? Am I asking for too much? Am I reading too much into this? Here's the important part. Your brain doesn't really recognize the difference between a small rejection and a large one when it comes to emotional impact. A micro-rejection is still going to trigger a reaction that you're not being valued, you're not being seen, you're not important, you're not worth someone's full attention. And over time, these feelings can accumulate and cause massive damage. And so often they go unaddressed. Think of it like this. If I punched you in the face, you'd know what happened, you'd know why you felt this way, and you would know how to address it. But if every day I come by and poke you and poke you and poke you, you might not know whether I'm trying to annoy you or trying to be funny, and you might not know how to address my odd behavior. Each poke might seem insignificant, but after a few months of this, you're going to look down and be covered in bruises. In the beginning stages of dating, microrejections can kill a relationship before it even starts, and it might be completely unintentional, so you want to watch out for it in yourself. You see, it's so easy to fall into a microrejection when you're texting and dating in the online world. Someone sends you a long text asking about your profile, and you send back a K or an emoji, and you don't hear from them. That's because that was a microrejection. Even if you take the time to send a few lines, it can make a big difference in how you move forward with this person. Or you're messaging someone and you share something personal, and they either ignore it or they turn the subject back to themselves. Often these microrejections could lead to misconnections. If you're doing them, people might not want to meet up with you. And if it's happening to you, it might be a sign you don't want to connect with this person. Because at this phase, the early stages of dating where you're just getting to know someone, they're showing you how much they prioritize you. I remember dating someone and we went out for our first date. He was a big football guy. And there was a football game on TV, and he said that he wanted to pay attention to our conversation, so he turned his back on the television, which I thought was very nice. But then he watched the entire game over my head. There was a mirror over my head, and he just watched it through there. And I really felt like I wasn't interesting enough to grab his attention. The microrejection was definitely a sign not to move forward. So if you meet someone who says they're excited to get to know you, but then when you're together, they're giving you one-word responses, they're looking at their phone, and they don't seem engaged, pay attention to that. Those microrejections are giving you clues of how able this person is to connect. And the phone is a big one. It can show up at the early stages of dating, when you're in an established committed relationship, or even in long-term relationships. If you're sitting across from someone at dinner and they keep checking their phone, if they keep answering emails, that's signaling disinterest. That's building a chasm between the two of you. You want to have time where you're fully present with your partner. I get it, it can't be all the time. Sooner or later, yeah, we're caught up in some type of group chat, but there has to be phone-free time where you're focused on your partner, where you're building connection. So that maybe there needs to be some sort of rule that when we sit down to eat, we don't have our phones. Or when we're engaged in a conversation, I'm giving you all of my attention. That shows your partner that you care. Because there's nothing worse than sharing something important with your partner that happened during your day. It could be something that happened at work. You might be frustrated with a colleague. You might have had something happen on your commute and you're trying to share. And all of a sudden you realize your partner's looking at their phone or they're gazing off into the distance and they weren't really present. They didn't really hear what you had to say. You're sharing about some phone call you had with someone from HR that was really frustrating, but your partner isn't tuned in. That's a micro-rejection. And it can make it more difficult to share your thoughts going forward. Or if you're the one that's always making the plans, you're the one always reaching out. That can also feel like a rejection because your energy isn't being returned. Your interest isn't matched. And if it's at the early stages of dating, or if you've been in a committed relationship for a little while, but you feel like you're the one putting in the majority of the effort, you want to discuss that with your partner. Maybe they haven't given a lot of thought to it and they just kind of let you lead. But if it's feeling like a rejection, if you feel like I'm always the one doing the pursuing, I don't know whether they're really interested in me, that's something you want to talk about because those micro-rejections can build up over time and leave you feeling less confident in the relationship. And they can also be physical. You go in for a hug and they don't hug you back. You go to give them a kiss, but they're sort of distracted. Maybe they're even looking at their phone while they're hugging or kissing you. I've seen that happen. You want to walk holding hands and they do it for a little while and they drop your hand. Those all feel like small little rejections, and it can lead to a lack of physical affection between the two of you. It seems like such a small thing to complain about, oh, he only half hugged me, or she only holds my hand occasionally, or she sort of bristles when I go to hug her. But it can lead to a rift between the two of you. And micro-rejections can definitely build and show up in longer-term relationships, in marriages at different stages. And here's what's the insidious thing about them. It happens when we're really feeling comfortable with our partner. You might find yourself thinking, well, yeah, we've been together for quite a while. I don't have to put in that much effort. They know I love them. I know they love me. We're comfortable. But it doesn't need to be like that. We do want to put in effort for the people we love the most. It's backwards to think otherwise. We want to show up and we want to do for the people that we're attached to. We want to show them how much we value them. You don't want to just be showing up for the people at work. But I see couples all the time that are physically present but emotionally absent. They're sitting on the same couch together, but they're actually worlds apart. They both might want to connect, but still might be sending micro-rejections to one another that signal disinterest, that signal that they don't value the connection enough, that signal that something else is more important. And it can happen on both sides, because here's the cycle that develops. If you feel consistently rejected by your partner, even to a small level, you're going to start to protect yourself. You'll stop reaching out as much. You'll stop sharing as much. And then you might find yourself giving back what you're getting. All of a sudden, you're on your phone during meals. All of a sudden, you bristle when they touch you. And yeah, you start to feel more like roommates, more like business partners than a connected couple. And what's really sad is these couples really do love each other. They might often look back on their past and want to get back there. They might say they value their partner, they admire them, but it's just not getting through because of all these little tiny micro-rejections. And it's all eroded their emotional intimacy. They're not as close anymore. They're starved for connection and they're sitting right next to each other. So why does this happen? Why do couples slowly inch away from each other through micro-rejection? A lot of times we overlook them because each individual incident just seems like nothing. So why bring it up? Why start a fight over this? You might begin by thinking, well, yeah, they were on their phone checking email while I was talking to them, but I know they're really busy. Why am I going to bring it up? Or, yeah, every time I give the kids a bath, they go into the other room and they're watching television. I feel disconnected, but I like giving the kids a bath. Am I going to fight about this? So you sort of let it go. And then it happens again, you let it go. And then it happens again and you let it go. Now you're on your phone, you're hiding while they're doing some other type of chore. And the space between the two of you begins to grow. I build because we start to make excuses for our partner. Oh, they're so busy at work, they're so stressed. That's why they're checking their email while I'm talking to them. Or they know I like giving the kids a bath. That's why they're not there. That's why we're not talking. We start to rationalize these behaviors instead of recognizing them as patterns that are damaging our relationship. A third one is we start to blame ourselves. We start to think, maybe I'm too needy. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I'm really too sensitive. I need to let this stuff go. So instead of addressing this pattern of behavior, we start to expect less and less and less. But in doing so, we're separating from our partner and we're doing more and more on our own. And our connection starts to become frayed. It starts to erode. So here's what I want you to understand. Your need for connection, attention, and emotional presence from your partner is not too much. It's basic human psychology. We want to connect. We're wired for connection. And if that's disrupted, if we don't have that, we feel real emotional pain and sometimes physical pain. Another reason we tend to minimize microrejections is we focus on the big, grand gestures. They brought me flowers last week. Or we just had that great vacation together. We're always great together on vacation. Or, they got me that car I really wanted. We think these big things should cancel out all the microrejections. But that's honestly not how emotional connection works. It's actually the small daily interactions that build intimacy. It's the consistent presence, the regular attention, and the emotional availability that strengthens a relationship. It means more if your partner always fills up the gas tank for you or takes your car to the car wash every week than if they actually bought you some brand new big car. Because one shows consistent care, while the other is a large, nice gesture, but it only lasts for a certain amount of time. I had a friend whose husband always filled up the car with gas for her every week. I thought that was a very romantic thing to do. Okay, so now we understand what we're dealing with. How do we fix these microrejections? I'm going to give you some strategies that work whether you're in early dating or in a long-term relationship. Okay, if you're dating and you're experiencing some microrejections, if this person is often sending you one-word replies or waiting days before replying to you again and seem uninterested when you're together, believe what they're showing you. Don't make up excuses like, oh, they're just bad at texting or they're not a phone person. Don't say to yourself, oh yeah, they've really been busy. That's why they don't text me as much. That's why we don't go out very often. Set standards of how you want to be treated and stick to them. If someone can't engage with you meaningfully during the dating phase, it's unlikely that they're going to magically become more attentive later. You might want to let them go or discuss this with them and see if their behavior changes. You don't want to enter into a pattern of microrejection early on in a relationship, especially without discussion. So if you think that they're worth it, have a talk with them about it. And then if it doesn't change, make your decision from there. There are people out there who will be excited to text you back, who will be fully present on dates, and who will make you feel valued and important. Don't settle for less. Okay, and if you're in a relationship where you're often feeling microrejected, name it. Talk about it. Have a conversation. Use I statements. Now, when talking about microrejections, talk about the pattern. The pattern that you see, not the individual rejections, because they might seem small, but the pattern of feeling disconnected and rejected, the small inching away from one another. You can start with, I've noticed that we both seem distracted when we're together lately. Can we talk about how we can be more present with one another? And then be patient, both with yourself and with your partner. They might reflect back to you that, yeah, you also have a tendency to micro-reject, and you need to address that. And then you can both tackle the pattern that you've gotten into. And here's the thing with patterns. It takes consistency and intentionality from both people to make a change. You can't just be present for a week or a month and expect everything to shift. You have to be patient and be in it for the long haul. Start small. Pick one area where you really want to improve connection. Maybe mealtime, maybe putting phones away during dinner. Maybe on your part, asking 2 follow-up questions to things that are shared. Or it could be greeting one another when you come home from work. Or having a 10-minute discussion about how your day went before you go to bed. Sometimes it's good to talk with a professional presence so both sides feel heard, and some couples do navigate it on their own. But you do want to start by naming it, by bringing it up, by talking about it. Then create phone-free zones and times when you both engage with one another. This could be the first 15 minutes when you get home, so you both talk to one another about your day. This could be during meals, or an hour before bed, or maybe you don't have phones at all in the dining room, or you don't have phones at all in the bedroom, so you can connect. You do want to protect your relationship from phone distraction. Then when you're having a talk, practice turning towards instead of turning away. Meaning when your partner's talking to you, you want to be turning towards them, making eye contact, showing them that you're interested. Instead of chopping vegetables or putting things away, if they're sharing about their day, if they're sharing something that seems important, you want to be turning towards them. You want to be showing them your full attention. You don't want to be watching the football game in some mirror. And you might want to have rituals of connection. And this is a big one. This is where you create regular intentional moments throughout your day that you share with your partner that are protected from distraction. This could be a weekly date night, and it could be something inexpensive. You play cards, you go for a walk with one another, but there are no phones present, there are no screens there, You're talking with one another. You can have a morning coffee ritual where you talk about your day or what's going on at work, and you share about your lives. You can go for a walk with the dog or the kid in the stroller. Just times that you spend together where you try to be more present, where you're sharing more, where you're being more vulnerable. Because these little rituals create consistent opportunities for connection and prevent the slow drift that microrejections can cause. And here are some things that are specific that I want you to try. The 6-second kiss. When your partner comes in at the end of the day or when they're leaving to go to work, try to have a 6-second kiss. You want to really be present in that kiss. It's not a quick peck or a little smooch, you're really present. And it might seem minor, but it can really change the energy of the relationship. So try that. Or a 30-second hug, just to have some physical presence with your partner. The 30-second hug is a little hard to do as the person's running out to work, but try it and see if that changes the energy between the two of you. Then practice emotional presence. When your partner's talking to you, put down what you have in your hands. Try and really be there. Ask follow-up questions. Make eye contact. Ask if they want you to just hear what they're saying or if they want your advice. Show genuine interest in their inner world. It's not about agreeing with everything that they say. It's about hearing them. You want them to know that you're trying to connect. And then notice what happens when you start to eliminate micro-rejections and replace them with micro-connections. I bet you'll see your partner's energy shift and you'll see your own energy shift. You'll be more likely to reach out more for support, to share, to vent, to celebrate, and to be more affectionate because you're creating safety. You're showing your partner that they matter, and that'll allow them to open up more, to be more vulnerable. And vulnerability actually strengthens connection. We get to know one another more. We reveal ourselves a little bit more, and it can make the relationship more exciting and stronger. And here's what I really like. If you pay attention to micro-rejections, if you try and cut down on them, usually your partner will then follow along and stop micro-rejecting you. You'll build a positive cycle instead of a negative one. And I know some of it might feel like small stuff. Really, we're talking about putting our phones away and making eye contact. But I'm telling you, these little moments, they're everything. They're the building blocks of intimacy and long-lasting love. So what do you think? Have you noticed micro-rejections in your own relationships? Because they can happen in love relationships, they can happen in families, they can happen between parent and child, they can happen at work, they can happen all over. Have you noticed micro-rejections affecting you in any of your relationships? Let me know what resonated with you and steps you intend to take to strengthen your connection. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell and everything else you do on YouTube. It really does help. It does mean a lot. Bye.